mommies and mommies to be, yummy daddies and daddies to be. Welcome back to the Maternity Diary. It's been a minute. I missed you guys. Yeah. So, welcome to anybody who is watching this channel or this video for the very first time. You're welcome to this amazing family. And if you're a returning subscriber, did you hear that? The kids' toys. It can creep you up sometimes at night. If you're a returning subscriber, guys, you're welcome back. Thank you so much. I appreciate all the love. I appreciate all the love. Please continue to share our videos, continue to hit the like button, and continue to comment, guys. Please do that. It helps so much. Thank you so much for all your support so far. I do appreciate it from the bottom of my heart. So settling in a new country can be very challenging, not just for the kids that you're coming with, not for the individual, but when it comes to parenting, you know, it can be super challenging. It involves a lot of adjustment, and in fact, the honest truth is, even moving to an entirely new environment, okay, already has a ton of pressure on you, and you have so much that you have to adjust to and all of that. So adding the stress of parenting in a completely new, different country can be really daunting for parents, especially parents who don't even have like other family members around to help them. So it presents a unique set of challenges. It presents a unique set of triumphs and defeats. Okay, it's important to know that. And to be honest with you, although a lot of countries that a lot of us are migrating to, be it Canada, US, New Zealand, Norway, Sweden, wherever, UK, wherever you are migrating to. So even though many of these countries that we are migrating to, like Canada, United States of America, United Kingdom, Sweden, New Zealand, Norway, all, name all the countries that we are migrating to, okay? Even though like they are very they're held in high esteem when it comes to things like social services, child services, things like that. Unfortunately, it seems like respect for cultural differences is not readily accepted. Okay, so this is, and for me, being a mother, someone who has grown up, like I've lived all my life in Ghana, and the way we've lived our lives has been completely different, you know. And the way we were parented, we were taught like we were nurtured generally, was very different from what we came to see when we moved to the country that we are in right now. And so having my own children, I began to notice a lot of differences. Like before I even had children, to be honest with you, when I came here, I used to see a few things here and there, and I'm like, you know, when it comes to parenting of people's kids. And it didn't like quite resonate with me so much until I had my own kids. And then I realized that the cultural difference was great. Like the expectations of the society that we live in is totally different from how we would have handled certain situations if we were back home in our country. And so I actually watched, Netflix is my thing. I like Netflix and chill. So this actually made me like feel a great connection to a movie that I saw on Netflix, which is Mrs. Chatterjee versus Norway. And I'm sure a lot of you have watched it. If you haven't watched it, finish watching this video and go and watch it. Okay, you would love it. So I had this strong resonation with her because Mrs. Chatterjee was an immigrant woman from India who had moved with her husband to got married, moved with her husband to Norway to seek better opportunities, better life, you know. And unfortunately, her stay in Norway became a bitter one, in the sense that she had to battle with the government of Norway for her children, okay, because they had taken her children from her and she had no custody of her children, and she battled this for more than 4 years, I believe, more than 4 years. So I think that Netflix did a very great job, and this is a true story, and I think Netflix did a great job at reenacting the whole story, okay, of Mrs. Chatterjee versus Norway. And so Mrs. Chatterjee is an Indian woman who gets married to an Indian man, and then they move to Norway because the husband is, I believe, was an engineer. Yeah, if it's not right, sorry. Yeah, so at the time when she came, she didn't have kids, and then she had kids finally. So she had 2 children, and one was, I think, barely 6 months, and the other was like 2 or 3 years old. And so she had weeks of visits from the Norwegian social services, and the Norwegian social services, they are called the Norwegian child welfare system or services. The Norwegian government had a couple, the husband and wife, under observation, and then the kids under observation. And if you live in a foreign country, you will be used to sometimes getting visits from social services, especially when you first have your baby. They will actually have a nurse come to your home to visit, to check that everything is fine with you and your baby. And usually during this time, they ask you questions like, they don't ask you directly, but they ask you, are you having any stress, or are you having maybe having an issue at home? Like they ask you those nitty questions, okay? And so Mrs. Chatterjee had these people come to her house for several weeks because they had to do it and write reports, and then after that, when they see that you're in the clear, then they check you off and they move to another family. And so according to the Norwegian government, actually, they noticed a few things that was happening in the home of Mrs. Chatterjee, and then immediately I don't know whether to say they abducted the kids, you know, they took the kids away from their parents. And mind you, Mrs. Chatterjee had a baby that was still breastfeeding. You know, that was still breastfeeding, and it was so hard for me to watch. As a mother, it was really hard for me to watch. And they forcefully took the kids from Mrs. Chatterjee. In fact, at this scene, I actually wept because I was like, oh God, I can't imagine if it was me. I'll go crazy. I'll probably like crush them with something, you know. Like, I don't know how I would have reacted, but you can't mess with my kids. You can't mess with my kids. You can mess with me, but not with my kids, you know. And so there were a few things that they noticed. So I want us to talk about some of these things that they noted, and then I would let you realize that a lot of these things that they noted that they thought was like abusive to the kids were actually culturally appropriate to Mrs. Chatterjee because she was from India, and there were certain things that they were doing that it's actually meant to be a blessing. So for example, they would see Mrs. Chatterjee feeding her son with her fingers, her hands, her bare hands, instead of using cutlery. And number one, they said it was a sign of forceful feeding. Yes, that was the first thing. And then secondly, she wasn't like hygienic. She wasn't using the right method of feeding the child by using cutlery. Okay, so now let's talk about this. So. In fact, I'm from Ghana. Everybody on my channel knows I'm from Ghana. And I love to eat with my hands a lot of times. I feed my children with my hands sometimes. If they are eating banku and okra, I'm not going to use spoon for it. If they are eating something, I'm not going to use spoon, I'll use my hands. And so in India, when you feed your child with your hands, according to them, it means you are blessing your child. And so her feeding her child with her hands felt like she was blessing her own child. But these people did not see it as that. Secondly, it looked as if she was forcefully feeding the child. Man, if your child is not eating and you know that they need the nutrients, they need to eat to feel like to grow, you would sometimes, there are days when we force our children to take, even sometimes we have babies that are not trying to breastfeed. Don't we try very hard to make sure that they are breastfeeding? We do that. So honestly, I don't see what is wrong with that. It's not like she was choking the child with the food. No, it's a different thing altogether. If you're choking the child is choking and you're still pushing it. No. But then as a mother, you have the natural instinct to feed your child if they are not feeding. And to be honest with you, I have this experience in my home. Like there are times when, let's say, my husband is feeding my children, and then maybe because he's more lenient with them, they will not really eat. They'll be slow and like as soon as I take the spoon, I'm like, okay. So for my first son, I remember like he didn't like eating much and he was slimming down. He was losing so much weight and I didn't want that. So there was a time that I had to try to make sure that he was eating. So I'll open his mouth and put the food in, because if I tell him he wouldn't do the for me to put the food in. And do you have to wait till your child is more malnourished before you try to do everything you can to feed your child? Come on. Tell me in the comment section what you think about this. Even if you're not from Ghana or from a country that does this, do you think that feeding your child with your hands sometimes is a crime? Do you think so? I don't think so. Okay, so the next thing that I'll talk about was so they realized that she was scolding her child at some point, and according to her, this was in the story, I don't know if it was like the real life story, but then according to the movie, she closed the door on the child. There was a patio, so she closed the glass door so the child wouldn't come in, and these people were like, she's being abused, and the child was crying, "Mommy, let me in," and they were like, you're being a bad mother, because first of all, you're scolding your child and you're abusing your child, you're not allowing your child to come into the room and all of that. And honestly, she later explained this in the movie, that it was because glass had shattered on the floor indoor, and she was carrying her little baby, and she couldn't hold it. Son, if he had come in, he was going to step in the glass and get severely hurt. So sometimes our perspective on things, just because they wanted to find fault with her, or even if they didn't want to find fault with her, sometimes give them the benefit of doubt. So this is what happened. She did that, and then these people said, hey, she was scolding her child, she's been smacking her children, she's been beating them, and they'll be crying and she'll be neglecting them. Meanwhile, she was trying to run quickly to come pack up all these glass on the floor before the child gets hurt trying to step on it. And imagine a mother, you're holding a baby, and I have that experience because my kids are like 2 years apart, and then you're holding one and then the other one is trying to, you're trying to also fix something quickly. Sometimes if it means you have to put your first child in, force them into the seat, like their high chair for them to sit, just so that you can take care of whatever you have to take care of quickly before someone gets severely hurt. I would rather do this than let my child get severely hurt. I'm sorry. I'm not going to let my child get severely hurt because of a few seconds of crying because they want to come and step in the glass. I would not do that. Not for anything in the world. Okay, so let's talk about the next one. So in terms of she's scolding the child and smacking them sometimes on the butt. If you're like me, you're from Ghana, we are used to being smacked. I don't believe in child abuse, like beating a child. No, I do not believe in that, because for me, one of my main things in life is to ensure that I'm communicating, because even if you beat your child without letting them understand why you are doing what you're doing, What's the point of all of that? You know, even as a baby, the baby does something. There are times when you have a child and they are going to touch something hot, and then immediately you just do this so that they can move it out. It's not deliberately trying to beat them, no, but quickly trying to take their hand before they get hurt severely. Because mind you, these are the same people. If your child's hand fell inside, like you put his hand inside hot oil, boiling oil, and the child had an injury, they are going to arrest you for abusing your child, allowing your child, neglecting your child, you know. So parental instincts will make us like quickly smack the child's hand so that you don't get hurt. And I absolutely do not see anything wrong with it. For me, like, I will try as much as possible to, you know, sometimes like in trying to like, oh, be gentle in the moment, especially in a dangerous moment, like they're going to put their hand inside a blender that is moving. If you do not scream and scold and they do it, you would regret it for the rest of your lives. I would rather scream immediately, so that, because the scream actually puts them in shock so that they can immediately stop what they're doing. But if you do not do that and they get severely hurt, you will not be able to forgive yourself as a mother, as a parent. So I do side with Mrs. Chatterjee for this, unfortunately. This is my honest review on this. So for me, I think that this whole thing about Mrs. Chatterjee, it's all a misunderstanding between the government and the culture preferences or the culture of Mrs. Chatterjee. And so there's like some kind of misrepresentation of the culture, and this has led to like welfare interventions. And mind you, this has happened to so many families out there, and I do not know anyone personally who has gone through the same thing, but it's happened to a lot of people. When you read on the news, you go on social media, you do see that people are going through the same problem. And the basic truth is that it's because there's misunderstanding of the culture of these people. And so I would like to and wait, before that, why am I rushing to? So before that, one more thing. They noticed that the husband wasn't very helpful to her. And in the Indian culture, according to the movie, I don't know if it's real, but usually the man does not necessarily help at home. So he goes out, goes to work, and the woman's work is at home. You know, so even when he comes, he wouldn't want to give help. Like in the movie, at some point, she was trying to feed the child, but she had to do something at the same time. And then she quickly told the husband, oh, can you just feed the child? And then you could see the hesitation and the way these social service people were acting. They were behaving like, oh my God, you know. And guys, like, seriously, I can understand that you come from a certain culture and you're not used to certain things, but sometimes when you come to Rome, you try to adjust to do what the Romans do. Not because they're taking away your culture or what you identify with, but sometimes it's just nice to help out. Sometimes, you know, it's very stressful in a foreign land, because if you're back in your country, you obviously have your mom, you have your siblings, you have family members to help you, or you can pay for help. But then in a foreign land, you're barely trying to survive, and then you have to, you know, you don't have help from your partner. So one thing that Mrs. Chatterjee, I noticed, was that the husband, okay, maybe he was trying to be very reasonable about how to handle the entire situation with the government. But as a mother, I think her instinct was to protect her children. She couldn't understand, why can't I have my children around me? What have I done wrong? I'm just trying to nurture my children. I'm just trying to do this. I'm just trying to, you know. And so she reacted in a way that made situations worse, to the extent that they actually called her a mad woman, someone who had psychological problems, because she was acting out. They wouldn't let her even hug her child. They wouldn't even let her, like, imagine if your child is taken away from you for several months. You would go crazy. I would go crazy. If you think you wouldn't go crazy, wait till it happens. I will go crazy, you know. But the husband's concern was that they were almost nearing citizenship. Yeah, the almighty citizenship. And so he didn't want to do anything that will mess up the his chances or their chances of being citizens. So he was being more calm about the situation, which is good because you need that balance, you know, sometimes. But this actually took a toll on her marriage. It took a toll on her home. It took a toll on, yeah, her relationship with her husband, because the husband looked like he wasn't bothered, like, oh, let the system work. While she was like, no, we need to get the system to work, you know. So there were so many parts, and even to the extent that when the children were later on released to an uncle of theirs, because they put them in foster home, but eventually they came to an agreement, and then they released the child to foster to the uncle, and the uncle brought the kids to India. They wouldn't even the uncle wouldn't let the kids see their mother, you know. And this was really, really sad. And the thing is, according to the story, I don't know if it happened in real life. I keep saying that because I don't know if all of that really happened, you know. But then, you know, when you have kids in a foreign land, usually you are paid a certain amount for your child to help with keeping your child or to take care of your child. And so, according to them, the uncle struck a deal with the welfare services so that he can be able to get the money from them. So every month he gets, let's say, 500 euros each for each child, and then it goes into his pocket, and constantly he was doing that. And it happens in Canada too. It's called the Canada Child Benefit. If you have a child, so the more children you have, the more money you get. Me, I ain't got time for that. So you have people who give birth to plenty children, and then so that they can collect money. Come on. Yeah. So one of the things that I read was that some of these welfare services, unfortunately, is like a business because they are independent companies, and so it's like a business, and they usually sometimes would exaggerate a situation because it gives them more money, it puts more money in their pockets. And if this is true, this is so unfortunate, this is so sad. No one should have to go through this. So let's talk about my solution for this. I believe that there should be a lot of interaction between the dominant culture and the other cultures as well, just so that there can be an understanding of what happens in each person's culture, you know, so we can embrace each other. There was a time I was talking to a mother who is from, where is she from? Costa Rica. Yes, and usually I don't talk about certain topics with some mothers because you do not want to be judged. You don't want to be said that, what is she doing to her child, you know? So you are a bit very cautious around other mothers who are not from the same country as you. And so I was talking to her, and then what's happening? Okay, so I was talking to this lady who is from Costa Rica, who was telling me that she was a bit hesitant to say, but she mentioned that she gets so tired with her child so much that she can't even let the baby sleep in the cot, because every 2 seconds the baby wakes up and she feels like she's going crazy. So for her own sanity, and the thing is, in her culture, this is what is done. The mother sleeps with the baby on the bed. But in this country, it's not allowed for you to sleep on the bed with your baby. You have to keep putting your baby back. And it was really tearing her apart, making her go crazy, because every 2 seconds this baby is awake. What would you do if it was you? And so she told me, she was hesitant to say it, honestly. She was like, so she does the co-sleeping with the baby and then breastfeeds the baby while she's sleeping. So the baby will sleep longer, and then the baby feels healthier, rather than the baby feeling constantly stressed and constantly disturbed. And yeah, so this is sometimes the feeling that we have around even other mothers from another country, because you do not want to be judged, or worst case scenario, you do not want someone to go report you to social services and say, hey, this is what she's doing to their baby, you know. So sometimes it's good, because me in this situation, I actually also told her some of the things that I do that is really different from how certain things are done, like here to your children. And it was just exciting to talk to someone who had like a different perspective also, and it was just good to do. So for me, I think that it's time for there to be a lot of interactions between these dominant and other cultures. I believe, especially when it comes to newcomer parents who come in, I think it's very, very important is that the newcomer is embraced. You know, they are not made to feel pressure to conform straight away to the things that is supposed to be done here, you know. And I believe that that will help people also to feel more comfortable, and let's embrace each other's culture. No parent would intentionally harm their child, and if they are feeding their child with their hands, it's okay. You know, if they are trying to bath their child in a certain way that you are not used to, that's not what you're used to. In fact, let me tell you something. I've done a video on this before. I remember growing up when they are bathing babies. Oh God, the way they would turn the baby around, massage, do the head, put hot water on the head, mold the head. Oh God, babies have suffered. We have suffered. We have suffered before, yes. So I remember when I saw that, even though I'm from Ghana and I was used to seeing that, when I had my baby, I was like, no way am I doing that. Let us make that decision for ourselves, because culturally, sometimes it means something to where we come from, you know. But some of us were like, no, I'm not doing this. I'm not going to be molding my child's head. Yes. So, guys, in conclusion, I believe that we should be more tolerant of other people's cultures. We should respect other people's cultures wherever they are coming from. Not everything may look good to you, but let's give the parents the benefit of doubt and not be quick to report them if we have to, if we want to. Try to understand their perspective first, and if after that you still do not understand, you can talk to other parents first before you go ahead to do any reporting or whatever you have to do. But please, guys, this is my perspective on Mrs. Chatterjee versus Norway, and I hope you enjoyed it. If you haven't watched it, it's on LinkedIn. What am I saying? LinkedIn. It's on Netflix, guys. So yeah, let me know what you think about the story, and how you feel about it in general. What would you do if it was your child? What would you do? I would go crazy. I would do whatever I have to do to have my child back, you know, and I wouldn't allow people to take my child away from me. So I don't know what you do. Tell me in the comment section, and we'll meet again soon. So until next time, don't forget to before that, don't forget to share this video right, and don't forget to hit the subscribe button and like this video. And I do have a short advert on a workshop for kids. It's amazing. I wouldn't talk much. Yes, I have put the description, their link in the description, so you can click on their link directly. If you're in Ghana, you have your children in Ghana, please, this is an amazing opportunity for your child in science, in tech industry. Get them right. They said catch them while they are young, and they'll be yours forever. So I put the description there. Yeah, just visit and involve your kids in some of these programs. Thank you very much. So guys, until next time, don't forget to stay happy, stay healthy, stay beautiful, and never ever ever forget that God loves you. See you next time on the Maternity Diary.